now Crazy Greg.
Crazy Greg.
Okay.
You're not going to learn
Crazy
anything here, but
Greg.
you're going to be entertained.
Crazy Greg. Well,
He has something that's going to go along with Bo.
Bo, yes.
Yes, wait till you see.
So, Crazy Greg. Crazy Greg, a lot of people think I just love gadgets. Actually, there's a business reason behind it. And I look at all this technology, understand where the future of technology is going, and I find out if you don't experience it, you can read about it, but if you don't actually experience it, it's very hard to understand how to use it. So there is logic to this, but I'll put that aside tonight and just have fun. I haven't gotten rid of my stuff, by the way, and I just took the third 23-foot truckload of old gadgets up to our barn upstate New York. So there is a museum of computing when I retire, if ever I do that. 25 cents, you can come up and see the history of computing, you know, the old compact luggables and word processors you can climb into. So I have a long history of these things. But when I take gadgets, I do try to look at them for what they mean going forward. But I also have fun with it. And so, as you might imagine, I travel a lot. And when I travel a lot, I have my run-ins with the TSA on a regular basis. And today, I got on the plane. Actually, I got on the plane on Sunday first to go to San Diego. And it was interesting. They did not really care about my bag. You know, the bag was filled. I mean, totally filled with gadgets. I mean, there was no clothes in it at all. And I had a device that I was very worried about because I said, this looks like a gun. And not only does it look like a gun, it pulls back, and you put a clip in it, okay? And now I have a gun that is changing bits. This is a screwdriver, and every time I pull this back, well, I can shoot bits on this thing. I was getting worried that they were going to stop me because I had this gun. I mean, doesn't it look like a gun?
Yes.
By the way, this is a very cool thing because it keeps the bits in here, and every time I pull it back and forth, it automatically changes the bits.
But they didn't.
They
see
did
an
not
outline of that
care.
on the X-ray?
They did not care about my gun. What they cared about was this, the basketball.
No.
They freaked out because when this went through the X-ray and they saw a basketball with 7 sensors, wires, and batteries in it, they had no idea what to do about it. In fact, this morning when I was coming down from San Diego, again, they didn't look at my bag. They were bouncing this thing all over the place, and they knew about it. And these guys were having a basketball game at the TSA. So what is this ball? It's actually made by a former NBA player who was trying to figure out how to teach sports to their kids. And so he put sensors in this thing, and there's an app, and I won't go through the whole thing because I don't know how to play basketball. But the bottom line is, this ball, if you ever want something, this ball actually measures its speed, how many times you bounce it, its spin, everything else. They're going to do this for soccer and other sports like that. It charges wirelessly with a little base, and then it talks to an iPhone app. So this is called the 9450. It's available at the Apple Store. There's going to be soccer balls and other things like that. And if you're not into basketballs,
Greg, why would you want to know how many times?
well, because if you're learning how to hit the ball and do it, they explained to me that the techniques you use will show you how to be a better player. And so there actually teams are using this to teach in schools. And if you don't like that, if you're not a basketball player, you got this little device here. This goes on the end of your tennis racket. There's one also for your baseball bat. There's another one for your golf. Same idea. It's a sensor that attaches onto your racket. And this little device here, very simple. It also tracks everything you're doing with your racket. Now, if you...
Greg, it also has an app?
It has an app. They all have apps, yeah. And then if you're worried about people playing football, since we're talking about school, and you know we're all worried about head concussions, this is from Reebok, and this is a little cap that you put under the helmet. But what's interesting about this cap is it has a sensor on it, and I can see if I can turn it on.
Does it tell you if you have a concussion?
And it tells you if you've been hit, how many times you've been hit. And it lights up on the back, on this little light thing back here, and it will tell you whether you've been hit multiple times or not. And the idea is you tell the coach you have one of these, and so if the thing starts flashing red, it means you better pull that player out. I did not bring, because unfortunately they couldn't get it to me in time, but there's also a jersey you wear that has the sensors in it, and also will tie together. So between the ball, the cap, and the other things, you can actually monitor. Sports teams in Europe are now using this for European football. So sensors are, of course, interesting. This is another interesting sensor. This one is a plant sensor. And you stick it in the ground. And this little thing here is a light sensor. This is a humidity and acidity and everything else. And you tell it what kind of plant it is, and it will sit there and tell you whether the plant is doing well. And of course, if the plant is thirsty, it will tweet you and say, I need water. It will also tell you if you don't know what you're doing gardening-wise and says, sorry, this plant's going to die. But anyway, you get these little things. And it's made to look sort of like a plant itself. So you put these things, in your garden. So if your garden has all these little things, you can know whether you know what you're doing about gardening.
Does that connect to your computer?
That connects to your computer. It's made by a Parrot. The same guy, some of you were here before, they make the little drone that goes around. They also made a really cool pair of headphones. There are a couple of these guys, but this one is actually kind of nice because it has the light sensor. But I'm into sensors, and so one of the other ones, of course, we've all been looking at previous year, the Nest thermostat, really cool thing. That's old. But what's new is this new Nest. And this is a smoke alarm. And it's a very different smoke alarm than the standard smoke alarm. First of all, smoke alarms, they all make that terrible sound. You have no idea what's going on. This one actually has a voice.
Press to test.
Now, I'm not going to press to test because it will start making a lot of noise. It's a battery-operated smoke detector, but it's a Wi-Fi connected battery-operated smoke detector. So you put multiple of these in your house. They all talk to each other. They will talk to the Nest thermostat as well. It will also measure carbon monoxide. So in fact, if your furnace is doing something not good, it will turn off the furnace. And even if it's detecting something downstairs, it will alert you upstairs near your bedroom what the problem is. And when you cook and then all that smoke comes on and starts causing problems, well, instead of having to try to blow the smoke away, all you have to do is go near it and give it a special hand signal, and it will turn it off. But it will talk to you in English as to what's going on. If it's a real fire, it'll warn you. So, you don't have to worry about the smoke getting up to your level. If the smoke is downstairs and you're upstairs, the downstairs one will find it. And of course, this will also go geolocation. It will detect where you are. They'll talk to each other. And it does a lot of very cool things. It's a little expensive, but what's your safety worth? And it's also 3 years on the battery. And if there's a problem with the battery, it'll tell you as opposed to beep, 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 beep.
Greg, one thing
Excuse me?
one thing with that is
This is only a test.
it's a woman's voice because supposedly children will listen to a woman's voice if there's an emergency.
It won't stop.
It won't stop. It's about a test. It makes a big noise. I got to be careful on it. Now, the world of sensors is not limited to sensors that nature. This is another one of my favorites. This is called the Porkfolio. I thought the name was great. It's by the same people. It's the same quirky company that makes the egg thing. And what it is, it's a piggy bank. And so you put money into it, and it lights up when I put money in. And then I pull out my phone, and it will tell me how much money is in my Porkfolio. I just like the name, the Porkfolio. So here's my Porkfolio, and as you can see, there's $1 in my Porkfolio. And if I put another, anybody have another? I'll put another quarter in so you can see. So I'll put another quarter in, and it should go to $1.25. Of course, it won't do that now because you're watching. Yeah, there it is, $1.25. Now, it had a little problem with it. I was on the plane, and all of a sudden, my phone was going berserk. It turns out that the Porkfolio also has a feature that when your little brother or sister steals your piggy bank, or your parents go steal your piggy bank, it sends out an alert. And it says, your Porkfolio is being moved. Well, guess what? The Porkfolio was being moved, and it was constantly bothering me. It's in the overhead bin, and it's like, I'm being moved, I'm being moved, I'm being moved. Anyway, this is the Porkfolio. For your kids who want to watch it, and if, by the way, if you open it at the bottom, take the money out, it tells you to. So
How much
I would,
is it?
Excuse me? It's like
much?
$60 or something. It's also available at Home Depot, etc. There's a whole bunch of these things that uses this Wink technology. Now, for more serious sensing, this is my favorite. This is a FLIR camera. So you were measuring bad things. I'm measuring temperature. So for those of you who can see, I can now go in here and see how hot you are. I can read your temperature. I can also use it to just look around here. So here, take a look. So you can see it's a color. It's a FLIR camera. This is, by the way, what they used in the Boston bombing. The police used it, and that's how they found the guy in the boat, because they couldn't see the tarp. But this, you could actually see the heat through the tarp. You'd be surprised at how useful this thing is. I have one of these built into my car, and I happened to, a place upstate New York, I happened to have some work done in the house, and they were supposedly doing some insulation, and I happened to park the car aimed at the house, and I noticed that there was this huge heat leak in the house. Well, it turns out it was seeing the heat leak, and so I told the contractor. He thought, oh, it's all inside the wall. He'll never know. Well, guess what? You can tell. If you're trying to figure out where temperatures are and anything else, so very interesting. This is a military technique that's now being brought to the consumer world, and you can actually take pictures with it. So this is the FLIR camera, and there are different versions of it. And by the way, you can actually shoot videos so it does merging of real video and heat and puts them all together. So that's the FLIR. This is expensive. It's a couple $1,000s. But there is a Kickstarter program that has one of these. It's, I think, $50, and it uses your phone as a sensor and has the same type of IR sensing. So you're going to see a lot more of these. This is the professional version, but there will be much cheaper versions as well. Now, moving right along, if you have all these sensors, one of the things you might want to do is have some way of reading them. So I have a few watches. I have on my arm. So I've got the Pebble, the Motorola, the Sony, the Qualcomm Talk, the Basis, a couple of Fitbits, the Samsung, the Nike Fuel, and it goes on and on and on. So I've been looking at all of these.
Yeah, which is the best?
Now, so which one is the best? So it's interesting. None of them really do everything. They all have certain attributes, although I've been trying them out different. I can only wear 2 at a time. And I found the one that I came back to was the Pebble. Even though the Pebble doesn't do that much, the reason I like the Pebble is it does what it's supposed to do, which is alert me at phone calls. I found I was missing phone calls because I didn't have my Pebble. I got so used to having the phone ring on here. Although the Samsung had a weird thing happen to me. The other day, I have a lot of phones, as you might imagine, and I normally carry 4 or 5 with me. Actually, speaking of phones, there's a little one here that I like a lot, except it's small, so I can't seem to find it. Well, maybe I won't show you my little phone. It normally goes in my wallet. That's how small it is. I'm sure it's on here. No, it's a little tiny phone. I'll find it in a minute. But anyway, so I'm hearing a phone ring, and I can't figure out for the life of me where this phone is. I'm going around, and no matter where I go, the phone is ringing the same level. And I realized it was my watch that was ringing. I finally figured out how to answer it, and then guess what? It was a spam phone call. So the first phone call I got on my watch was, "You've been selected to receive a government grant," blah, blah, blah. Anyway. But when we talk sensors, we're also talking about sensors for other things, and of course that implies camera sensors and image sensors. And so there are a couple that I like. This is the Blackmagic Super 16 digital cinema camera. Now, not too many years ago, in fact, not too many months ago, getting this quality of a video capability, this is digital cinema, getting this quality, you'd be talking $10,000 to $20,000. It's under $1,000. And this is a full color gamma for digital cinema. So if you want to be a filmmaker and all the rest, you can actually make a film using this device. I actually saw one of them where the cameras, this is the camera part here. This is the camera. The lens is separate. I saw they put a digital cinema, they put a PL mount lens, a lens about this big on it, and this little tiny camera. But this is a company called Blackmagic Design. It's from Australia, and they are totally disrupting the broadcast world. But if you're interested in filmmaking, I'd recommend this. But then you've got our friends at Sony who've come up with something also very interesting. And I'll use a Samsung phone here. Again, lots of them. So what this is, well, maybe I won't use a Samsung phone because it's not on. How about using, oh, there we go. So what this is, it's a lens attachment for your phone. So instead of having the phone lens on it, this is a lens attachment for your phone. Now, most of the ones you've seen before actually just simply is an optical, I don't think this phone's on. So let me find another one. Okay, we'll we'll go with the Motorola here. So basically, what it does is, a lot of these lenses are just little optical lenses that go on top of the existing lens. So it's the same imager, it's the same little tiny imager in it. It doesn't really give great quality. But what happens if you want really great quality? Well, you take this, and the first thing you do is, this uses NFC, near field communications. So if I want to pair this, I just bring these two things together, and it will automatically turn itself on. And the lens is now going to connect up to the camera here, and it just did. And it says connecting, and now you can see the lens. I'm moving it around here. But here's what happens. You pull this little part apart here like this, and then you attach this to your camera. And I've now turned my cell phone into a camera with a real lens, real zoom, and so now I have a very high resolution camera. So this is a very interesting concept. So we're adding, the whole idea of adding a cell phone, adding something to it. This is a lens that comes in two sizes, different focal length. I've been using this quite a bit, and it's also interesting because you can now take this and you can stick it in little places. You can put it anywhere you want because the lens is just Wi-Fiing to the phone. So this is the Sony Lens. Now,
I'm sorry, is it Bluetooth or Wi-Fi?
It takes its pictures itself, so it has its own memory card. It uses Wi-Fi, it creates its own Wi-Fi network to the camera so you can see what you're looking at. And then it will then use the cellular's network to share that photo on Instagram, whatever else you want to do. So it's a very interesting combination of these things. By the way, I don't work for any of these companies. I don't endorse the companies. So the fact that I have two Sony devices is just happenstance. But this is interesting. This is an audio recorder. It's a lot of people, they make these little audio recorders, so if you want to get a good recording of something, I'll just put it out here. But what's interesting about this one is that it also, if I remove this cap, it also is a video recorder. So it's an audio and video recorder. And so if you're at the concert and you want to make a recording, most of these devices, the microphones are terrible. So a cell phone is a really nice product, except that it has terrible microphones. Or a camcorder might have, even the DSLRs have good picture quality, but don't have good audio. So this is good audio, so it's got a pair of stereo microphones, so decent microphones, and by way of the picture. So this is if you want to capture something, and it's small enough that it'll fit in your pocket. So this is a very nice little pocket recorder that also happens to do video. It's a couple $100. It just came out, I think, yesterday. So it's a brand new product. But if you're looking for some interesting toy for the holidays.
You could use those for interviews.
You could use this for interviews and things like that.
Fantastic.
And in fact, speaking about journalism, I'm working on a project at the University of Missouri Journalism School on how to use mobile connected devices for connected journalism. And this is one of the ideas that we're looking at. Moving right along, because...
I want one of those.
I want one of
excuse
those.
me? Oh.
I want one of those.
I want one of those.
Yeah, one of those? Okay. Now...
How much are they?
I think it's $240, something, $249? Excuse me? The lens? They come in two flavors. The long lens is $500. The short lens is $200, depending on and they're both, by the way, they're large megapixel cameras on well. Now, I try to bring a little bit of everything for different people, and although I do use a Mac quite a bit, occasionally I do need to use a PC, and I looked around to try and find a laptop I liked, and I ended up with this Lenovo. And the reason I like the Lenovo, it's a nice, SSD. It's a machine with, it's Windows 8, which I'm not sure I like. But it has, you can go in here, you can touch the screen, everything else. But what's interesting about this laptop is I can push this button, and the laptop comes apart. And now I have a full computer. And this is not, some like RT thing. This is a full Windows, Core i7 SSD computer. And it's a very nice little device. And let me turn my caps lock on here. And the reason I brought this out, though, and if you are a fan of the old IBM trackpad, guess what? It has a little red dot on there if you like that. So there's a little red dot if you want it. It also, by the way, you can put back this way if you want to do presentations. So you can run it backwards.
Problem is Microsoft.
So you can use it and you can do presentations this way. But the reason I brought this out was not so much to show that technology. And what I wanted to show is another sensor. And that sensor, oh, there's my phone. Here's a little small phone. This is my little tiny phone. It was underneath the laptop. This is a really cool little phone. It's a full phone. It fits in my, it's the same size as a credit card, a little bit thicker. It goes right in my wallet. But the reason I was going to show this.
Greg, how much is that? How much is your tiny phone?
My tiny phone?
Yeah.
A couple $100. Okay, so here is.
Who's the maker?
It's some Chinese special. It actually, on the back it says, limited edition 084 of 100. So I guess they didn't make very many of them.
Where does it actually transmit your location, your IP address? Where does that go back to?
There's that building outside of Beijing with all those antennas on top of it. I think it might go there. So, so talking about sensors, 3D Systems, which makes 3D printers and other things like that, came up with this thing. It's called Sense. And I don't have time to do this, but I was going to do this, and maybe afterwards, I was going to do a map of your head. And make you a Christmas present.
My head?
Yeah, and your head. So what this does,
To Esther's head.
we'll do a head. So here, you can see what's happening here. Hang on. So hang on. Let me put this under here so you can see. So my thing has turned into a. It's turned into a sensor. So I can choose, what do you want to do, a person or a object? Let's do a person. And I want to do a head or the whole object, so a head. So does someone want to stand?
Go ahead, Esther.
Stand over a second. So basically, I won't do the whole thing. You've got to stand steady. And so now, you see, I can do this here, and I can start. No, stand there. And then I start scan. And now, 1, 2, 3. And now I go around, and I'm creating a 3D, I kind of lost it. But anyway, you get the idea. You walk around, and you end up with a 3D model. And when you have the 3D model, you can then fill it in. And when you fill it in, you then send it to your printer and hit print, and I can make a little head of yours.
Oh.
or anything else.
Which isn't creepy.
Yeah, and I was thinking.
But it's not
I was
creepy.
thinking. I wanted to get those little dogs they have in the car, the bobbleheads.
Bobble dog.
Yeah, I would take those dog heads off, and I was going to get one for each of you for Christmas and put it on it. So if you don't mind, afterwards I'll scan your heads, and we'll have a few of them, and we'll have little presents.
Why, yes, we do mind.
Kara,
When I told
just
my
leaked
wife
our
I had
entire-
to practice on this.
that's
and
our entire business model.
That's our new company.
That's our
Well,
new company.
at the D conference you did for the people who've been there a long time, you did the point dot things.
Yeah.
Well, since you're not with the journal anymore,
Right.
So, don't you think it'd be much better to do? We'll do a thing instead of point dot. We'll do bobbleheads.
Give us a call.
Give us a call.
No, I think for people who've been there
We're
multiple
open to
times, little
All
more.
ideas.
Oh, okay. Anyway, this is actually this is $300, but having a full 3D scanner for $300, it's hard for me to do it on stage like this. But $300 scanner is really quite amazing, and it really does produce very nice models. And once you do it, it will work with other.
But you need a 3D printer.
You need a 3D printer, but they have a program when you can send it to them, and they'll print it for you and send it to you.
Oh.
So you can buy this, and then you have an option: you print it yourself or send it to them, and they'll print it for you.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. It's 3D Systems. And since we're in the business world here for a second, I was going to use this to show how the laptop worked wirelessly, but unfortunately they couldn't get the HDMI thing to work properly, so I'll have to show it like this. This is a product, so if you are in an office and you want to share your computer, there are a lot of ways you can do it with Apple TV and even Chromecast, but the problem is they all require applications on the device. And it's very hard to go cross-platform, and you have to load software in many cases. So what happens if you have an office and you just want people to come in and share? And this is a product called ClickShare. It's made by a company called Barco. Barco is, you know them from, they do all the very large venue projectors at big events. But they also are making this new thing. And I was looking at how do you make a totally wireless conference room. In other words, how many of you have conference rooms and you have all those wires coming out of the table? I want to get rid of all the wires. So it's all hanging. So what happens is you have these little pucks. And these little pucks plug into your Linux machine, your PC, your Mac, any device that has a USB, it'll plug in. It does not require special information for administrator password, et cetera, to use. And then when you plug it in, it will light up and it'll turn red when you want to use it. And you can have, on the larger version, you have 64 of these. So I was thinking it from the educational perspective.
One of your devices is calling you.
Something's calling?
See, it's blue right there, phoning you.
What's calling?
Right here.
Something's calling. It's
There's
this.
a man whose pants buzz.
It's this. It's somebody's got a phone call.
Would you like to conduct your
I'll
call?
take it later.
So if you're doing collaboration, you put these little pucks on the table. People plug in, and if first person who pushes it, they get the screen. Second person will split it into dual screen. Third person will do 3 screens. 4 will do 4. And then the fifth person somebody has to knock somebody off. If you want to take over, you just hold down your button longer. But for collaboration, it's actually very cool. And if you have the bigger, this is a small version, this is a bigger version. The bigger version will actually do 2 screens, and it'll have up to 64 pucks. So I'm looking at that for education for one-to-one, because kids can go into school and plug these things in, and you don't have to worry about.
How does this differ from the steel case wireless puck?
They're somewhat similar, but this does not require any installation. You just plug it in, it just works.
Okay.
So that's the nice thing about it. So it's called the ClickShare, and it's made by Barco. Now back to the days of entertainment. We've been talking about all these devices things, and mentioned Chromecast, which I happen to like a lot. And so I decided to put together a kit for myself that when I travel, what should I have with me when I travel so that I can enjoy my experience at home on the road. And I had no idea that TiVo was going to be a sponsor tonight. So this is just happenstance. And again, I'm not representing any of these folks. But TiVo has come out. I feel weird because I feel like I'm doing a sponsored thing for them. But TiVo has come out. This has come out with something called the Romeo. And a Romeo, first thought is, oh, it's another DVR. But it's not. The difference between Romeo is Romeo, as its name implies, means that you can roam with it. So I can now go, and we're going to unlock this. And there's my DVR. And if I want to watch something, I can watch it on the road. Now, I can just go in here, and here is last night's Watch on iPad. And there's last night's evening news from NBC. And I can go, and I have multiple TiVos. This thing happens to have so this has the Romeo comes with 6 tuners, so you can have 6 different things running. So you basically put one of them in your home. You can buy these little ones, these little TiVo minis, and stick them on other TVs if you want, or just use iPads or anything, or a TV or anything you want as your second TV. But the best part about it is, I'm no longer locked into doing that at home. Now, Dish Network bought Sling, and Sling introduced at the D-Conference, I recall.
That's right.
And Sling is great, and if you have Dish, they do that. But what happens if you don't have Dish? What happens because if you have Dish, you have this capability.
Because TiVo will work with multiple cable networks.
We'll work with cable, Verizon, satellite, everybody else. So, a lot of people have thought that TiVo is going the way of BlackBerry, but this is actually a pretty interesting product, and I use it quite a bit. And you can even download them on here, so if you want to be on the plane where they won't allow you to stream, you can watch content on the plane. And of course, I can program everything, and I can change the programming, and it will also talk to multiple DVRs. So that's the TiVo Romeo. Now, the other thing about TV, we're talking about Chromecast, and one of the problems is how do you carry that 50-inch TV around? Well, here's the answer. A couple of years ago, I brought a Sony version. Zeiss came out with a little bit better version. These are OLED glasses, and now I have a equivalent of about a 100-inch TV set, and we'll do stereo if you want. But this will plug into your iPod, it'll plug into your iPad or your phone or whatever, or HDMI, and you have the ability of watching things. And so if I want to watch things from my TiVo, I can just watch them on here. So on the plane, if I want to watch a big screen, I can do that.
How much, how much are they?
These are about $600. And they're OLED. And what's interesting about them, so some people wear glasses, and then, like me. And what they have is they have these little knobs here. Let me show you. These little knobs right here. And each one of them allows you to adjust your eye individually. So you can adjust each eye. So you just close one eye, adjust the other one, close the other eye, and adjust it. So even if your eyes are not 100%, you can adjust it perfectly for the vision here.
What does it simulate? What size screen at what
It's
distance?
about a 70 to 80 inch screen.
As if you were sitting what?
As if you were sitting, proper distance away from it. It's a very enveloping thing. And there's another version, there's another capability of this which adds a motion sensor so you can do the tracking. So as your head goes around, it will track. The other big use of it is for the dentist. The dentists are using these, and when you're sitting there and they're operating on your teeth, you put this on, and so that's another
Greg,
use of it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you wear those and the watches and a couple of the other things,
Yeah, that little meter would go berserk.
would the average person wearing those things ever get laid again?
Can I plead the fifth on that?
I'm just, how does this impact society? That's what.
Well, it's it also, by the way, the Chromecast will plug in to that. So I can plug that right into the Chromecast.
Yeah.
So I do
if you
carry
have
a
the
Chromecast.
Chromecast plugged in on top of wearing that,
Right.
what does that do to your odds of actually getting a date?
Well, a funny thing, you should mention it, because talking about sensors, again, if you have kids and they don't like to use their toothbrush, this is a internet-enabled toothbrush. So this will report whether you're brushing your teeth properly or not, so your parents can see whether you're doing it, and they can actually reward you, and you can have different ones, and then you can create games between your kids as to who brushes their teeth the longest. And if it doesn't run long enough, it'll start flashing blue on you. But that's not as much fun as this. This is an internet-controlled fork. And and I'm accused of eating fast.
We've written about
And this is designed to stop you from eating fast, because if it detects that you're eating too fast, it starts to vibrate. If it vibrates enough, your food falls off, so you can't eat it. So this is a Frenchman who is gaining too much weight. He has a fork. It's called the Happy Fork, H-A-P-I. And this will measure how much you are eating, how fast you're eating, and report back, of course, to the authorities in China as to what's going on.
Thank you.
Now, another area that's kind of interesting is if you're in your home and you want something. This is a mirror. I look at myself in the mirror. You might think this goes on your dashboard or so, but it's got a USB cable in. And you might ask why it's a USB cable. Well, for that, I need to get my trusty laptop, and I plug this USB in here, and what you'll see is it's actually a keyboard. And this is an illuminated keyboard. So if you're worried about having
It
an
was
ugly
on
keyboard,
for a minute. No, it's
sorry.
not, but
There you
okay.
go. It's got haptic feedback. It clicks and everything else. So this is a fashion keyboard. So if you want something that looks nice, if you have a computer around, like maybe this tablet, here's a keyboard to go with it. I find it kind of nice. Excuse me?
When you could be connecting.
Who makes it? It's I think it's about $200. It's called Mineba, M-I-N-E-B-E-A.
Carry,
It's
your
called
children
Cooley.
want that.
Yeah, not so much.
It's a kind of cool keyboard. All right, moving right along. So the other area that's happening is gaming, and this is, if you're a gamer, this is an interesting concept. And looking at the future of things, this is called the Nvidia Shield, and what this is it's basically taking a cell phone and marrying it with a gaming console. So it's got the very high-powered GPUs that Nvidia makes, and it's an output 1080p, and it's a nice high-quality video. But this is a full gaming platform using the combination of CPU and GPU to get very good gameplay. Interesting product. Lots of games available. Android, it's basically an Android device. Oh, by the way, it's also your portable movie player. So if you like to have your portable movies, etc., and a music player, it's a very cool thing. But in the gaming space, there's another one that's even more fun. And I'm noticing down here, we have the cheering section for games. Has any of you heard about these? These are called Anki Cars.
Yeah.
And these are little cars, and they're real, obviously, but they're played on a video game on your phone. So there's a track. We don't have room to roll it out, but there's a large track that has special ink, and then you play the games, and you race these around the track. They're battery-powered, and they race around like regular slot cars, and they follow the track. But because they're connected to your cell phone, you can add powers to them. So you can add points, and you can add weapons. And so all of a sudden, it's the virtual meets the physical. So the physical things are driving around, but then you're shooting virtual weapons at them, etc. So nobody gets hurt, but it's actually kind of fun. It's called Anki Cars. And this is, I think you're going to see a lot more of this, where the physical and the virtual start mixing, like what you see with the basketball, like that bow you saw here. This is a racing car thing. So it's something that you might want to look at. I understand they've been selling fairly well, so you may want to, if you want to get one for your kids. These little car cases, this is where you charge them. They go right on here, and they charge. Again, not enough time to show them off here. Now, the other area of gaming is, I think, we just had the PS4 and the Xbox One. I think it's probably the last of the console games because of things like the Nvidia Shield. But there are also a lot of people coming into games. This is a gaming product. So it's a gamer, and it's very similar in concept to your Chrome stick. So here is the stick. You plug this into your TV, and this becomes the controller. And now here's how you play the games. So it sticks in here, and so this becomes your gaming console, and it comes this little case here. And then you can use that to play games. Same idea, the processing is in the stick. And they're not the only ones doing it. There are lots of other little devices. This is called the Pocket TV. Same idea. It's another one of these little things. Basically, it's an HDMI connector. That's the hole on the back, by the way. The HDMI connector, you plug that in, and these things will work. Now, when you're out there having all this stuff, of course. Actually, let me do one thing before that. This actually is probably one of the more interesting boxes that we have here. It doesn't look like very much. It's sort of like a little heart-shaped thing. It's only got one connector on it for power. So you might say, well, what is this thing? Well, it is a box with 7 radios in it. And you say, well, why? What do you mean 7 radios? Does it get, FM, AM, what is it? No, actually it has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Zigbee, Z-Wave, all these devices that communicate, all these, the basketball and the sensors and all the rest, they all send out waves. What this is, aggregates them all together in a single app. And so now with the app, I can go in here, and now I can control all sorts of things in my home. Instead of having to have separate apps, there's one app aggregated through here. And let me see if I can find it's called Revolve. So now, all of a sudden, you start to see, these are all the options I have to control stuff in my home. So it talks to the Nest thermostat, it talks to the Sonos system, another company from the D conference, it talks to the Yale locks, it talks to the Insteon light switches, it talks to a lot of different things, and it aggregates it all together. So it's called the Revolve. It just came out, and if you have more than one of these systems, excuse me?
It's similar to the smart
Except that
things.
this doesn't care about the devices. Smart Things needs to talk to smart things to smart things. This just goes out with all these different radios and says, I don't care the protocol. So if this one's on Insteon, this one's an X10, this one's a Nest, this one's a Wi-Fi, this one's a Bluetooth, it aggregates them all together. So it's a central hub. Put this together with TiVo, and you might have something very interesting. Okay, moving right along, the next thing, so is nepotism allowed? I mean, a little thing. This is something that my son invented, so I felt compelled to show. He was in college.
Is nepotism allowed? Look
Yeah.
at the panel.
So my son was in college, and he noticed that when people had headphones in their ears and they took them off to meet with somebody, the headphones were dangling all over the place. So he came up with the idea of clicking them together with magnets. So they form. So A, they don't tangle. But B, you can just put it around your neck, and it creates like a necklace for you. And he patented it. Drove me nuts because he got 3 patents in the time it took me to get 1. But anyway, he got it patented, and it went on the shelves just recently. So it's licensed. This is licensed through Yurbuds. There are a couple different versions of them. But it's actually, I find it pretty clever. When he first told me about it, I said, oh, come on, why would I want to do that? But it turns out it's actually pretty clever. They snap together, and so when you're wearing them, you just snap them together, and you can snap them onto your lapel, etc. So if you like earbuds, I would recommend the Yurbuds with magnetics from Patrick Harper. Moving on, though, and talking about headphones, I travel a lot, as I've mentioned, and so therefore having some form of noise-canceling headphones is important. The ones I'm using right now are the Parrot Zik, which is what these are. Now, the reason I like these is because I'll pull it back a little bit. The reason I like these headphones are because, first of all, they're wireless, or they can be wired if you want. Secondly, they use a touch control, so basically the way you control just moving your hand up and down on it. They're noise canceling, and they also will act as a microphone, so you can actually have telephone conversations with them. So it's a full function thing. But as an audiophile, the problem with these headphones, or any of these noise canceling headphones, I don't care which ones you take, to make the noise go away, they destroy the sound. So what's interesting, these guys give you an equalizer, so you can actually try to put the sound back the way you like it. So these are nice. But, and for the airplane, it's still the best way to go. But if you're not on the airplane and you have an opportunity, then I have another thing. And the other thing is these headphones. These are Sennheiser Momentums. And for the money, and it's a couple $100, they come in 2 flavors, on-ear and over-ear. These are really good sounding headphones. And they're nice and small, so you can carry them with you. I don't recommend them on the plane because they don't isolate the low frequency noise of the plane. But if you they're decent for it, but it's not the same as the noise canceling. But on the other hand, sonic purity, these sounds really good. Now, of course, if you do that, you want to play some music on it. But the problem with that is, of course, you can't hear this because I'm having headphones. If you come up later, you can listen to them. So I brought some speakers. And where are my speakers? Here are my speakers. And let's plug my speakers into my music player. And you can hear how this really wonderful music player works. Maybe. So the Lion sleeps tonight, but in all seriousness, this is a very high-end audio player. And if you're into very high-quality audio, this is a $1,200 player, so it's not a simple thing, but it's way higher
With or
quality.
without the speakers?
Without, well, the speakers are extra. But it plays off SD cards. It plays all the audio formats you can think of, and including the uncompressed, very high-resolution ones. And there's a location called, called HD Tracks, a site you go to HD Tracks, and you can buy your songs uncompressed. And you take that along with the headphones, and you have this little player, and you'd be amazed at how good the sound sounds.
What makes the player?
It's a company called HiFi Man, and there's a site that's HiFi Man. You can get this, or they also give you a, wherever it might be, yes, they also have in-ears. I'm not a big fan of in-ears, but they make wonderful in-ears. They're even balanced audio for the few audiophiles in the room. So these are called the RE600s. And the combination is quite pricey, but the quality of sound is very, very nice. So, so finally, The next thing I want to show you here is a little app, and I'm very much into, so let me unlock this thing. You know, I don't want Siri, I want my fingerprint to work. Okay, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. And let me go into, get out of that, and we'll go over here to this. This is a light bulb, and is it not going to, oh, I got to connect my light bulb. This is, you know, the demo gods are never happy here. Let me see, I'll just take this off. This is a bulb. Oh, is it not plugged in? That's no good. This one works.
Plug the bulb.
Now that one works. There we go. Okay, so there's the bulb, and it's an LED bulb, and you notice there's difference in color. This one's a white one, this one's a yellow one. But the yellow one here, I can go in here, and hopefully, if it's connected, well, theoretically, I can go in here. Bulb 01 test. Let's go here. Anyway, what it does, it Bluetooths to the bulb, which is kind of fun. So instead of having to have a hub like the Hue bulbs I showed last year, this bulb works directly. And I guess we have to see whether Bluetooth is on here. It is on, okay. Well, I guess we're not going to show you how the thing changes color. You'll have to trust me that it does change color. But here's the interesting thing about this bulb. These bulbs are electric. And one thing about them is that they need to be plugged in. And so I'm going to do something that you don't normally do. I'm going to create a failure on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the system here. Thank you. And notice this bulb is still on. And we're not plugged into anything. The bulb is still playing. And in fact, I can use the light switch, and I can turn the bulb off, and I can flip the switch, and it goes back on. Except we're plugged into absolutely nothing. So I saw this at a trade show. It's not a product yet. The inventor happens to be in the room, so if you want to meet him, I'm sure he'll come up later and talk to you. But think about this as emergency lighting in your home. So you screw these bulbs in. They go on and off like regular light bulbs, but if the power drops, you can still turn them on and off. And guess what? Your light switches will still turn them on and off, even though there's no electricity in your home. So they'll last for a number of hours. Obviously, they have a battery in them. But I thought this was a very clever idea. I believe he's doing a Kickstarter project, and this will be coming out soon. But I mean, how many people have seen a light bulb that you can turn on and off where it's plugged into thin air?